Hacksaw Ridge, which is the new film that has basically rehabilitated Mel Gibson in Hollywood. There's no point in revisiting, Mel's fall from grace. But this is the film which has everybody, back saying, okay, Mel Gibson is back on form, based on the real life story of Desmond Doss, who's played by Andrew Garfield, a conscience objector, volunteered as a medic, but absolutely refused for his religious beliefs, and also because of, as the film sort of starts to reveal, because of stuff that happened in his own personal life and his domestic life, refuses to carry a weapon into war. The first half of the film is basically him, expressing his conscientious objection, and how much that is then, after he's volunteered, how much that is then seen as being something which is terrible and he's victimized for it. But then we move to Hacksaw Ridge, where it becomes a really full-on, visceral war movie in which what he is doing is going into war without a weapon in order to protect and save his comrades.
You're like gum on a shoe, ain't you?
Give me this.
It's a bit late for target practice now, don't you think?
Jump on it.
You're kidding.
Oh, I'm gonna drag you.
Let's do it!
Ready?
Yeah.
Let's go.
We got company!
Come on.
Now, I played that clip advisedly because it does give you a sense of what the battle scenes are like in terms of, the frenzy, the horror of war. Here is the strange thing about Hacksaw Ridge. When I saw it, I had heard, really sort of remarkable things about it. People who whose opinion I respect enormously, saying, "Look, it's great. It's Gibson back on form." And the comparison that was made that was Apocalypto, and I was talking to Nigel Floyd about it, and I said, "Is it Apocalypto?" He said, "Well, no, it's not Apocalypto." And that's the crucial thing: is it's not Apocalypto. What it is essentially a broken back movie in which, in the first half of the film, in which we are setting up the character, in which, we get to see his past, his background, his personal relationships, everything before they get to Hacksaw Ridge, essentially, is done in a way that is almost so cheesy that it starts to look like a Nick Sparks movie. It starts to look, I think somebody else used the phrase, it was like a Hallmark movie. And I was really baffled by it. I was really baffled by at what point is this going to kick in and stop looking like something that is absolutely ladling, I had in the past criticized Steven Spielberg for the scenes in America in Saving Private Ryan, and believe me, they were nothing in comparison with this. Then we get to Hacksaw Ridge, and there are breathtaking moments when you first see where the battle is going to take place. You first see this, the situation that they're going to go into, and then there are the battle sequences, which are done. I mean, if you know anything about Gibson, you'll know, if you've seen The Passion of the Christ, he's not somebody who is, any trouble with, putting viscera and gore on the screen. If you've seen Braveheart, you'll know that he enjoys the big battle sequences. And the standard thing that everybody said about this is it's the most violent pacifist movie you'll ever see. And I remain very, very agnostic about its virtues. I think that there is stuff in the battle sequence that is really visceral, that is really powerful, that is really horrifying, and that is as it should be. And I think the story itself is very, very interesting story, and the performances, particularly from Andrew Garfield, are very solid. I think there are moments in the battle sequences in which it comes dangerously close to tipping into the territory of Tropic Thunder. And I think that understatement has never been Gibson's forte. He is somebody who directs turned up to 11. And there are elements of it in the same way as, the Clint Eastwood sniper film that actually I think will play to an American audience in a way that they will play very differently to a UK audience. I also wondered an awful lot about why it is that opening is quite as cheesy as it is. And I wonder whether it was to do with Gibson thinking, in order to make the pacifist hero seem heroic, the only way I can get around this is to spend the first half of the movie establishing him so much in terms of the language of Mom's apple pie cinema that by the time we get to the battle, everybody is completely on side with him. And I have to say, I don't think that was a decision. I mean, that's incidentally, that's me speculating about what that decision is. But if that is the reason, it's a problem for me. I think there are things in Hacksaw Ridge that are powerful. I think there are sequences in it that are very, very strong. It's not Apocalypto by quite some distance. The thing with Apocalypto had a kind of madness to it. It had a kind of kinetic, straightforward bullet path madness to it. There was just like almost pure cinema. It was, almost like people talk about pure cinema being a silent movie, or people talked about Mad Max Fury Road being a film that used the language, the visual language of cinema rather than the spoken language of cinema to tell its story. And I still think that Apocalypto is just in a league of its own. I think in terms of Hacksaw Ridge, there are things in it that are powerful, but there are also things in it that are unbelievably cheesy, and also things in it that seem to be overstated to a point that the film starts to tip over into something that comes dangerously close to parody.